All right, I'm Leon. This is James. This is Mariah. This is Karina. And this is Vilma. And today we'll be talking about mental illness in America. So you guys, it's no secret. It is a fact that mental illness is here and is very much real. You know, so why isn't this topic mostly talked about?
I think a lot of it has to do with the negative stigma surrounding people with negative stigma surrounding people with mental illness. The terms we use to describe people with mental illness are typically negative. And
yeah, a lot of the times when the topics of mental illness and mental disorder comes up, usually the words associated with it are crazy, wacko, insane, psycho. And when you hear those kinds of terms, it's very negative and yeah. So
and it shuts people down. People who have mental disorders, they don't want to be called that, so they just kind of just shut down. They don't ask for help. They don't seek help because there's so much negative stigma around what the people are calling them.
They feel they need to be ashamed of their illness.
Yeah, even Dr. Oz has a segment called Nuts Are Normal, and it doesn't help to have a public figure like that talking about people with mental illness in such a negative way.
And it's kind of crazy that in today's day and age, I would think that that'd be a little different, because that's pretty problematic to have a segment that's pretty much saying you're either normal or you're not. And to have that shown to younger generations and current generations, it shows that we need to categorize and separate people based on our mental
state.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's not okay to label someone. And
you don't want to be in a
them.
group of friends and be the outcast of it and not be invited to certain things just because your friends are going to think that you're going to go crazy on them, and you just end up being excluded for something that it might not be such a big deal. You might be just having to talk to somebody.
Yeah, because that's what leads to a lot of kids getting bullied nowadays. And, you know, people, it's basically kind of like an opening to say it's okay to get bullied when it's really not. You know, so when did this problem really become an issue?
I think it all started when Ronald Reagan was president. He decided to do a couple of budget cuts, specifically on the mental health department. He decided to deinstitutionalize a couple of people, well, mostly everybody, and get them out of their facilities where they were getting help. And he figured that these people were going to be able to get mental help on their own, and therefore he could cut that money from the mental that was going to the mental health programs and put them somewhere else, because he figured that these people with mental illnesses, could get help on their own.
Yeah, and before the 1970s, we had like very few shootings. We had the Charlottesville shooting, we had the Antioch Elementary School shooting, and then the Cleveland Elementary School shooting, which was basically only two people dead, rather than mass shootings, and more people are dying. So it's like every year we're getting more and more people dead, and it's just
which is safe to say that after these budget cuts, instead of them being called school shootings, we're now calling them mass public shootings. And according to the LA Times article, 59% of public mass shootings are carried out by people who are diagnosed or showed signs of severe mental illness. And so
yeah, I'd like to say that even though a lot of school shooters have been shown to have mental illness, that many people with mental illness are actually non-violent, and we shouldn't only be bringing this issue up when a school shooting occurs. It should be an issue that's addressed.
Yeah, I have a mental disorder and I'm not violent.
Exactly, which that's very important to show, because today we're just highlighting the fact that mass shootings are just a result of poor mental health care in America. And so here, the New York Times did a research showing that mass murderers are nearly 20 times more likely to have a severe mental illness. So today we're just showing how poor mental health care is a result of this.
Yeah, like not having access to mental health can result in bigger issues, because it's a lot harder to get mental health since we don't have the budget for it or the funds and stuff.
So, I mean, you mentioned that it's hard to, get mental health. So what's the difference, I guess, in states?
Oh, well, Massachusetts, as of 2017, has the best mental health resources. For every 200 people, there is one facility, one facility is can help a lot of people because it's the whole facility. And this is why Massachusetts has the lowest prevalence of mental illness and the highest rates of access to care for adults among other states. And it's because their insurance covers all types of mental illness. You can get, and it insures uninsured and insured. So if you don't have insurance, you're not going to get turned away. You're not going to you can get help because they prioritize their money with mental illness. Unlike our state in California, which we have some funds, but not as much funds. So we're kind of like in the middle between the access to mental health, which kind of scares me because it's a long process here in California now. And our California law requires that there's a timely wait to get access to each, which is each case limits like the time you wait. So just to get an appointment for non-urgent, it's a 10-day wait just to get an appointment. If you need a specialist, it's a 15-day wait just to get an appointment. And if you live in big cities like Los Angeles or Sacramento, which like we are really close to Sacramento, it's an 18-month period just to get a therapist or just to get seen by someone, and 18 months can seem like a long time if you have a mental disorder, because mental illness is a chemical imbalance. It's psychosis. So that time waiting just to see someone, that's when someone can easily like flip or like act out because they need help and they're waiting so long. And that's when the big shootings occur and terrible things happen because they're not getting the adequate help that they need, and that's why it causes so much problems.
Well, even on the lower end, have you guys heard of Greyhound Therapy?
No.
There's a facility in southern Nevada that actually will take patients with severe mental illness and discharge them way too early and give them a one-way ticket on a Greyhound bus out of the city. And that's how they deal with their mentally ill.
That's their
patients.
treatment?
Crazy.
Crazy.
And it's like some people don't even like they just need to talk to someone. It's talk therapy. Like, not all mental disorders are the same. Some don't need medication. Some just need to talk to someone, and for them to just send someone out, just well, figure it out. That's like ridiculous.
So you're saying that I could be mentally ill and that just like be done with me and just take me off anywhere?
Yeah, if they don't want to treat you, they'll just give you a one-way ticket on a bus out of
So
town.
I guess it's cheaper to get a one-way ticket than it is to treat someone.
Just to talk to someone.
Seems to be
Okay.
that way, yeah.
Wow. So I mean, because of that, like, how are people getting treated today? Like, that's something I want to know.
Well, actually, 2 million people with mental illness go to state and local prison or local jails each year. That means that there are 10 times more people behind bars than there are actually being treated at state facilities.
So,
Wow.
so like,
Yeah. So
you're
most
telling
people are
me-
getting treated in prisons rather than
So they're
actual
getting better
facilities.
treatment in a jail than out here in the public.
So they're getting
So-
better access to mental health.
So,
Yeah.
so do you think that people are just going to jail just to get mental health? I mean, could
No.
that
That
be
shows
a
that
possible?
America, our society only helps people when they treat an issue once a crisis occurs. So we're waiting until the last minute until someone needs help. So I think that's a huge issue that America and
It's the timely wait. You have to
Exactly.
wait this long, and an 18-month period, and some people don't even make it to the 18 months.
Exactly.
So I mean, before we talk about what we need to do to change, I remember you mentioning that you had a mental disorder.
Yeah.
So I just want to personally get questions to ask. How was that experience? Like, can you describe like what it was like waiting and all that stuff?
Yeah, well, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which is a disorder that I don't need medication. I just need talk therapy. So at a very young age, at 11 years old, I knew that I had a problem. My brain would tell me that you should kill yourself, you should do this, you should I could not control it, and I didn't understand why this was happening. I wanted to get therapy, but my family does not make enough money, so we had no money to get a therapist. And I was kind of like suffering internally up until I was 14, when I was like, I couldn't take it anymore, and I decided I'm going to kill myself. And that's when I started taking all these pills. Then they took me to the hospital, and then the psychiatrist in the hospital said, well, this girl needs therapy because this is not normal. Like, you need to get a therapy. And my mom's like, well, I have no money. How am I going to get a therapy? And it sucks that like I had to be like almost at my deathbed for them to realize that we need to get a therapy. So that's when they finally like the emergency Medi-Cal, like it was just like I can get therapy only sometimes. So I got therapy like once every 2 weeks, which was not enough because once every 2 weeks felt like a long time, especially at the young age of 14. Because you're growing up, you're a teenager, and so that was very hard for me.
Time goes by way slower when you're younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, when I turned 18, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna get myself treatment because I need it. That's when I went to the government, because I have Medi-Cal, which is the government insurance. I went to the medical office and I said, how can I get therapy? And they're like, well, we only have one therapist, and it's a 6-month wait. So you can sign these papers, and we'll call you when there's room for you, basically. So I was like, okay. So then I send the papers. I'd call every month. They're like, no, not yet. They're like, well, you can go here. So then I'd go there and to the Solano County mental illness facility, and then they say, well, we can't help you because you're not our priority. And they kept me there for 8 hours, and then they're like, well, you can, basically they let me go because if I wasn't gonna kill myself then and there, if I wasn't a danger to myself or others, they didn't want nothing to do with me. Which is kind of really upsetting, and I remember sitting in my car crying so much because I was frustrated, why am I waiting so long? Why can't they just help me? And it's I have to call this person, I have to call that person. Oh, we can't give you a therapist because you have to go through Beacon. That's your health. That's your hoops and obstacles. And it's just tell me what I need to do. I will do it. I want to do this. So finally they said, well, we can give you medication. So they sent me to the hospital, and they said, here's Prozac. This will help your depression, which my mental disorder has nothing to do with medication. It's through talk therapy. I need to see a therapist. They're so quick to throw medication at me because it's much easier to spend money to give someone medication than to sit down and talk to someone. And finally, even now, after all the months and waiting, I was at my breaking point here at Solano, and I remember sitting in my sociology class, and I just could not take it anymore. And I was crying, and I said, Professor, I need to leave. And he's like, go ahead. And I left, and I was crying, running down the campus, and I went to the counselor's office. And I remember the counselor, Rosie, she's the person at the front desk, and she saw me crying, and she's like, what's wrong? And I said, I need to talk to someone. I can't take this anymore. And she's like, okay, well, let's see if we have a counselor available. And then finally I met Narissa Orozco. She's one of our counselors here, and I was crying and shaking, and then I finally opened up to someone, and that was a big relief. But why did I have to get it through my school? My school had better access for me to talk to someone than the government did, and that's unacceptable. Which I'm very grateful that we have crisis counselors here on campus, but it was hard still because I still needed to get the actual adequate help because it was just a crisis counselor. She didn't know how to treat borderline personality disorder. She didn't know how to do any of that. So I was seeing her for about 7 months, a semester and a half. I was seeing her daily, and she fit me in there, and I became good friends with the counselors because they know, hey, it's Mariah, she's in here to see Narissa. And so finally, I was crying a lot to her one time, and I was like, it's frustrating because they keep getting me the runaround, and I want to talk to someone. So she's like, that's it. So she called all these numbers for me, and she said, do you take this insurance? You do this, do that. It was a 2-day process for us, and finally we got someone who took my insurance, which was rare. And she called the therapist, and she said, you need to see the student because I'm the counselor. She explained the situation, and my therapist now, it was okay, I need to see her. And within then, it was boom, 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 I got a therapist. But why was it till I was about to kill myself again that I was going through all this for finally to someone to say she needs to stop waiting? I was already waiting 6 months. So now I have a therapist. Even now with my therapist, I can only see her once every 2 weeks. I can't see her the same time, twice in the same week because my insurance won't cover it. And it's not my fault that my family doesn't know how to make enough money. I need help. And it's a drag, especially when you're going through it, because people like me have the highest suicide rates. Borderline personality disorder has one of the highest suicide rates. So I have very strong will. I know that where I am mentally, but a lot of people don't. And that's kind of scary to think that when they're feeling this way, when the psychosis hits in, when they want to kill themselves, when they go through one extreme to the other, which I do, it can be very scary. So if you don't have that will, you're not going to make it. And that's sad that the government's not noticing that. You're a danger, and we just have to fend for ourselves.
Right. Which is to say that something needs to be changed. We need to enact some sort of.
It needs to be change. More access, easier access, not the runaround, and most people just give up.
Right.
Yeah, we need our state to enact some sort of legislation to create more facilities specifically aimed at low-income families so they can easier access this help. And our governor needs to enforce this and pull funding through taxes, much like anything else we have.
So basically, we have to stop putting a bandage on a broken leg, pretty much.
Basically.
And stop trying to sweep it under the rug and act like it's going to be okay. Here's medication. Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, medication doesn't work for everybody.
And when I was taking the medication, it made it worse. It was making me more sad and more in a dark place when I just needed to talk to someone. Something simple as that.
One size fits all does not. It doesn't work with mental illnesses and mental disorders. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to say, shout out to Narissa, because,
Shout out to
she brought you, you know what I'm saying? She brought you to, she really pushed out to get that help and brought you to where you are today.
And
Yeah,
shout out
I
to
really-
you for staying strong and for making the move to do that.
Thank
For
you.
real.
When your government was failing you. So.
Yeah, but it is all due to tax cut. Like people, like especially like Donald Trump, honestly, like he's focusing so much on taking these taxes and paying to build the wall to keep people out. When the real issue is like if you would take that tax money and actually apply it toward people who need help, then probably we would have a lot less families who is mourning from the child's death based off of mental illness.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
mental illness and mental disorders, it's not as big of a priority as it should be. In America and California, we should be prioritizing this huge thing, and it's not.
Like Massachusetts, they get easier access and they get help faster other than us waiting like 18 months, which is really ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, you can pretty much get pregnant in that time and bring a child to the world, and you still have to wait for it to see your therapist. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
That's ridiculous. I think that students should talk to counselors once a day, like at least or once a week, like middle schoolers, high schoolers. Like it should be mandatory that you are talking to your counselor every day. And if you are a student if you are a student who is experiencing stress, we encourage you guys to text courage to 741-741, and it'll apply great help.
I actually use this a lot. It's actually a really good resource. You text this person and a real life representative reply to you, and they ask you what's wrong. You tell them what's going on, and they'll give you like apps that you can help you with like breathing techniques, and just basically there's someone that you can talk to, which is a really good resource.
Share this, post this. If you see it on the camera, you see it anywhere, you see anybody that can use help, go ahead and give them access to it. Post on their social medias, do what you got to do.
Yeah, even now, since we don't have the best access to mental health, I really encourage you guys to talk to your school counselors, because they're not only there for academics, they're also trained to be crisis counselors. So they are definitely a resource you guys should just go ahead and go to.
Yeah, and always remember that sometimes a nice smile or just say, hi, how you doing? How can I help you? What's going on? Can help somebody in a big way.
Just be nice.
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, if you are somebody who is going through stress, or you do know somebody that's going through stress, text courage to 741-741. Signing off, this is Leon, James, Mariah, Karina, and Vilma. Have a good one.
If you are interested in a career in sports broadcasting, whether you're commentating a live game
or hosting your own TV show,
or working behind the scenes, then this is the class for you.
For more information, contact Greg Poff, that's me, at solano.edu.
we hope to see you here next semester. And remember,
It's more than just sports, it's an education.